In 1915, Japan was at war. As countless people died in the trenches or on the battlefield, those who remained home faced a more primal enemy: nature itself. Rokusen-sawa Sankebetsu was a small, newly settled village, situated near the west coast of Hokkaido Island, the second largest island of Japan. Like many new settlers, the people of Rokusen-sawa had their fair share of wild animal encounters. After all, deforestation had taken place in order to raise the village, and the animals were left in want of shelter and food. But none of these encounters prepared the villagers for the most dangerous predator yet: a huge Ussuri brown bear. Enraged by its early emergence from hibernation, and hungry, so very hungry, its hunger caused a killing spree that would mark Japan forever. In mid-November 1915, the brown bear paid a visit to the Ikeda family house in Rokusen-sawa. Recently awoken by unknown reasons, it was more than likely experiencing deep hunger. The incoming winter made food scarce, so the bear had to find other ways to soothe his aching stomach. The brown beast took some of the family's corn and then left, leaving the villagers wary, but not exactly alarmed yet. Not until the bear showed up again, less than a week later. The head of the Ikeda family called on his son and two Matagi Japanese traditional winter hunters to help him take down the bear. 10 days later, on November 30th, the bear was shot and injured, but managed to take off into the woods. Following the bloody trails left by the animal, the men were led towards Mount Onishika, but a large snowstorm stopped them from finding and killing the bear. The men were, however, convinced that the bear would now fear humans and would no longer approach the village. This hastened conclusion would make the Rokusen-sawa community pay with their blood. The bear hadn't been seen in almost 20 days, so the villagers slowly started to relax. On December 9th, Abemayu was babysitting Hasumi Mikio in her home. The two of them were having a jolly morning when the beast entered the house. Mikio was bitten on the head, an atrocious injury that soon killed the baby. Desperate to save her own life, Mayu fought back with all her might. The woman tried to throw firewood at the bear, but she was soon overtaken and dragged out of her house, which remained still as death itself. A search party of 30 men soon found the bear no more than 150 meters away from the house in the forest. They shot at it, but only one bullet found its home into the bear's flesh before the animal took off. The hunters found Mayu's body stashed away beneath the snow. The sight was a gruesome one. Only Mayu's head and part of her legs remained. The ugly truth was now obvious to everyone. The vengeful bear now knew the taste of blood, and nothing could prevent it from striking again. The panicked villagers knew they had to act before it was too late. They gathered at the Ota family house with guns in their hands. Early that night, the bear reappeared. Chaos followed. The men were frightened, and only one of them managed to shoot, chasing the bear away. By the time a corps of 50 other guardsmen arrived and posted 300 meters away at the neighboring Mayuki house, the bear had already escaped. The men then headed downstream, trying to find and ultimately kill the animal. This was another costly mistake, one which perhaps couldn't have been prevented. The guardsmen posted at the Mayuki house were having dinner when they received news of the bear's return to the Ota house. They soon took off, leaving only one guardsman to protect the many women and children who sought comfort in each other's presence inside the house. Yayo Mayuki was already tense by the time she heard the noises. Her house was full of frightened women and children. Her back was straining under the weight of her fourth child, Umakichi, and now she had to prepare dinner for all of these people. As she turned to investigate the source of the racket, her hut's window shattered to smithereens. As the room was engulfed by darkness, disaster ensued. Yayo knew she had to leave the house and try to save as many of the children as possible. The darkness was blinding, the screams rising to the sky as gut-wrenching pleas for salvation. The frightened woman also made it to the door when her second son, Yujiro, clung to her legs, tripping her. The bear attacked her and bit Umakichi, the son she was carrying on her back. Odo, the only guard left to protect the women and children, couldn't believe the sounds coming from inside the house. He knew he had to act despite the odds of one man against such a huge beast. He gathered his strength, courage, and faith and opened the door, making the bear release Yayo and her child. The woman escaped with her children despite her serious injuries. Brave Odo tried to distract the bear away from the others, but the beast clawed him in the back. The women and children were now defenseless against one of nature's most brutal forces. The bear then mauled 3 more children and made its way to the next victim. Takisaito knew she was going to die, but she would have done anything to save the child she was carrying inside her womb, even plead with the bear. Villagers later stated they could hear Take begging the mighty bear to spare her belly and instead eat her head. As Yayo and her children hurried away from the house, they encountered the returning guardsmen. The woman related the bloody events and the corps rushed to the house. They suggested setting the house on fire, believing that the bear had killed everyone inside. But once again, Yayo thought of the children and forbade this proposal. The guardsmen then divided into 2 groups, with one group standing guard at the front door, while the other went to the back of the house. The group at the rear soon started shouting and rattling their weapons. The bear rushed to the front door. It was now or never. Fear scented the air. Confusion soon engulfed all the men, their weapons misfiring, their composure lacking. The bear escaped into the night. Despite the tragedy brought by the night, a flicker of hope helped the people of Rokusen-sawa carry on. 2 of the children inside the house survived the attack. Yamamoto Heikichi had been reluctant at first, but then decided it was time for one more hunt, one of a frightening foe. The hunter was certain the beast was none other than Kisagaki, roughly translated as the diagonal slash from the shoulder, a bear that had previously mauled 3 women. On December 12th, a group of villagers, government snipers, and volunteers waited inside the Mayuki house. They were sure the bear would try to retrieve the bodies he killed, but the animal stopped, checked the inside of the house, and then returned to the forest. By then, people were tired of failure and living in fear. Something had to be done. The following night, the bear returned and ransacked 9 of the houses. By then, the makeshift army of villagers, snipers, and volunteers waited patiently. A shadow then appeared behind the trees. The men fired, but the shadow disappeared into the forest. The next morning, on December 14, 1915, a trail of blood was found. Yamamoto, the bear hunter, and Ikeda Kamajiro, a local guide, set after the bear. They found Kisagaki resting near a Japanese oak. Yamamoto knew this was his last chance. A frightening storm was approaching. The man took his gun and carefully approached the immense beast. He was tense, so tense, but an entire village's safety was depending on him. The man stopped only 20 meters away from the bear, and then he shot. The first bullet pierced the bear's heart, and the second one hit its massive head. At long last, the plight of the people of Rokusen-sawa was over. A necropsy was carried out on the bear. It was found that the animal weighed 340 kilograms and measured 2.7 meters. Parts of his victims were still inside the bear's stomach. Kisagaki killed 7 people in less than a week, and the horrific attack helped shape Japan's fear of bears, animals who are now widely regarded as terrifying man-eaters. Although the events that took place in Rokusen-sawa were terrible, we must note that the bear was not an evil, conscious being. The general understanding is that the attack occurred as the result of the bear waking early from its hibernation and experiencing excruciating hunger. However, it is also noteworthy that the bear hadn't attacked any person prior to being shot by one.